Gonna build a mountain from a little hill.
Hey guys, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. My name is the Lady Designer, and today I would like to share with you guys my process of how I planned out my African mini zoo franchise series. It's a question I get like super often if I have any tips on how to actually plan a zoo. And I have to admit, like before African mini zoo series, I barely did anything with planning, and especially not when starting a zoo. So to plan this African mini zoo series was definitely also a learning curve for me personally. Like I am definitely not saying that this is the way how you should do it, because I think there might be plenty of other ways and probably even better ways to do it. But I do hope that with sharing my process of how I planned out my mini zoo can maybe help at least a few of you out there. But it would also be great to hear in the comments how other people plan out their zoos, so we can hopefully learn from each other and all become like better in planning out our zoos in the future. So yeah, definitely feel free to share how you do it, and of course let me know what you all think of this video, obviously. Now a quick note before we jump into this video, I don't have like this drawing pad or anything like that, and I'm also not super experienced with drawing in Photoshop, so I apologize in advance for the mess this might create in these Photoshop files. But yeah, let's go and jump into it. So the first thing I had to decide on was how many animals I wanted to add in the zoo, and for me as a YouTuber it was also important to decide how long I wanted to make this series regarding episodes. So after I decided this series should be like 15 episodes long, including the final zoo tour, it was time for me to fill in those 14 episodes with animals. So I first made like this list in Excel. Yeah, I'm sorry, I pretty much do everything in Excel sheet, but obviously use whatever you like to use to make an animals list. But yeah, so I first made like a list in Excel of all the African animals, which is pretty much an easy job because you can just select all the African animals via the Zoopedia in-game and write them on whatever you are using to make that animal list. And after I got the list, I started to basically greenlight the animals I thought would be the most interesting to add to my zoo, but also to make sure I don't have like too many of the same type of animals, for example. But I also really wanted to make sure that I had like 1 or 2 animals with like an underwater viewing gallery, for example. So this is pretty much the list that we have greenlighted right now. And if you have been following the series so far, you will notice that this list of animals does not match with all the videos that I have actually made for this series so far. And I think that is also a really great example of the freedom you have when building your own zoo. Like you are allowed to change whatever you want in a later stage, but it's also really nice to have some kind of planning to always fall back to if you get stuck, I guess. So this was like the first animal list that I had, but for example, due to like new Planet Zoo packs or the fact that I already made a habitat in a tropical franchise series mode for some animals, like this African mini zoo series was a very in advance pre-recorded series for when I was going on a holiday. So yeah, I really felt like I wanted to change the animal roster for this zoo along the way. So this was definitely not like the end result of what we have right now regarding videos for our series. And as you can tell from this animals list, this is already the order that I kinda wanted to make the episode. So where I wanted to start with building habitats towards the end of where I wanted to end with this whole series. So after I got the animals list, the next step was trying to make a sketch of the zoo where I wanted to add all the animals and make sure the order I've made was like logical of where and when I wanted to add these animals. And next to that, I also tried to already draw down where I wanted things like staff rooms, shops, information stands, and toilets to be, just so I would have an idea of where I had to make sure to leave some space to add these type of buildings in a later stage. So yeah, this is just a scan of the sketchbook that I had. It looks like a yellow post-it I drew it onto, but it was not a yellow post-it. I guarantee this was just a white paper. So I started pretty easily with the entrance building and where I wanted like some shops and some toilets to be. And first I wanted to have like a restaurant, but later on I changed my mind. So it's just a few shops that we have right over here. I actually drew down that I maybe wanted to have like a fountain or something like that. And this ended up to be some kind of little statue area, I guess. So the aardvark and meerkat habitat was the first episode, and when I recorded the first episode, I realized like the aardvark is not going to fit into this meerkat habitat as well, just due to some space issues, because I also had the rule that I really wanted to make sure that the habitats were as small as possible. So yeah, the aardvark was very soon skipped already. I did draw down a new habitat for them, which could potentially be a spot where I wanted to have the aardvarks, but in the end they did not turn out to be in this zoo at all. So the second episode that I did was the African penguins, and so far so good. This habitat still looks pretty much as I drew it. Like I wanted to have like an underwater viewing gallery somewhere over here, some information or like an educational point inside of the building, that is, and like a viewing gallery right over here. But like it was not per se that I really already thought in advance of like how I wanted the habitats to be. This was just like the first thing that came up in my mind, and be like, oh yeah, as soon as I will start making a habitat for whatever animal, I will obviously do some research or just Google online to see what kind of inspiration I will get for these specific animals. And if you do need some more help with that, of how to get inspiration, I actually recently uploaded a video of 5 ways of how to get inspiration for your habitats in Planet Zoo. So if you need some more help with that, I highly recommend you to watch that video. So yeah, episode 3 was a lemur island. At least that was my first plan until I did find like a really cool building or like a lemur house building online. And that was then the idea I had to make this lemur habitat. And the first plan was actually to have all 3 lemurs in one habitat. But yeah, as soon as the habitat was finished, it just turned out to be a little bit too small for so many lemur species. So yeah, in the end, I think somewhere here at the backside of the West African lion, we built another habitat for the other 2 lemur species that we had. But we did stick to the plan of having 3 lemur species in this zoo. So then episode 4 was the West African lion habitat. And if you have been following the series, you know that this is definitely not how the habitat looks in the end. I did drew down something like this, like, oh yeah, I want something with like a round shape. And then I went to Artis Zoo in Amsterdam, and I find that such a great inspiration for this habitat. So it was pretty much changed. So it's like something that looks like a round shape right over here. And then like this viewing gallery right over there. Oh my gosh, my drawing is so terrible. And then it actually, so the lemur habitat is right over here. And then it actually later on turned out to be like a pretty big building with like, with like 3 different habitats right over here. So yeah, as you can tell, this definitely was not like I planned it to be, but it was a lot of fun to work with like this really big habitat building for different type of species. Like in the end, we had 5 different species in here. But yeah, as you can tell, like this definitely was not planned, because we had bongos and warthogs planned right over here, which both ended up right over here. And I actually had some extra space. So in the end, the Nyala ended up to be in this bigger habitat building as well. And then the African savanna habitat also did not turn out to be as I planned it to be. We have some toilets and some shops and some picnic benches right over here, which actually I think turned out to be somewhere over here. And then this big savanna habitat actually turned out to be like a big building, also inspired of Artis Zoo. And then there was like a habitat right over here and then right over here apart. And then the animals were able to cross through this building to one side and the other side. But I did stick with the plan that this would be like the big main feature, or like the middle centerpiece of my zoo in the end. And then episode 6 was the fennec fox. Indeed, definitely doesn't look anything like this habitat, but it did turn out to be really cool building with two sides, like a desert-ish building. I think I'm drawing it the wrong way around, but yeah, it has two sides and definitely looks really cool. And it did end up to be somewhere in this area. Also an information stand somewhere around here, I'm guessing. And I think we also have one around here, but I'm not entirely sure. But these are like the round shapes information stands that we have. So yeah, then episode 7, we're like adding my most favorite animals, the bongos and the warthogs, and they both ended up to be in this bigger building with the West African lion and the extra animal, the nyalas, as I just said. So yeah, these two were basically not in this particular area anymore. And then I really wanted to create like this bigger reptile house. So the reptile house definitely did not end up to look like this shape of building. This was just an idea. But also for the reptile house, I just made sure to find some inspiration online and then ended up with this sketch. This is basically the only sketch that I did do for a specific habitat. It actually did help me a lot to get an idea of how to plan out this reptile house. So this is pretty much the entrance. So the guests would enter right over here. There's a little outdoor section here for the tortoise and then a little indoor section right over here. This is the big glass roof that we have. And then right over here, there are a few exhibits. I had no idea, of course, in the beginning, like how many exhibits I would actually be able to fit in here. So I also left some space on this side to have some exhibits. And then I wanted to have like a now monitor habitat. So pretty much this is the shape of the habitat. And I did want to make sure that this particular that this particular area would be like lowered into the ground a little bit more, so we could have like this underwater viewing gallery. And then if we would have some more space, we would actually be making some exhibits right over here as well. And I did already try to figure out like, okay, what are like the exhibit animals that I would be able to add in here, which are all from Africa. Like in a later stage, we did also add a few others because I just had some more space to add some exhibits. So yeah, we had some more space to fill in like the empty spots with some other animals. But pretty much the whole zoo is filled with African animals, apart from 3 exhibits in the end. At one point, I did wonder if I wanted to add like the aardvark and maybe a pygmy hippo inside of this building. But when I finished like drawing out this planning we have right over here, I actually realized that no, this is just going to be like a reptile house with only real reptiles, as in the tortoise, the now monitor, and some exhibits in the end. So when the reptile house was finished in 2 episodes, we ended up to build the flamingo aviary. Also was not really this shape. We ended up with like a more of a round shaped aviary. It was really cool to build, and also really did like the difference of building an aviary after we did like a super detailed indoor reptile house. So yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun to have some variation going on in here regarding the next animal. And then the okapi habitat absolutely did not end up to be this tiny. The flamingo aviary actually moved to the okapi space right over here, and the okapi actually moved right over here to what are planned to be a primate's house with chimpanzees and gorillas. Well, that idea was completely scrapped. So yeah, so we have like this big habitat right over here for the okapis in the end, with like this big greenhouse and indoor area, which looks really cool. And then like the flamingo habitat would be something looking like this. Although I think it's maybe the other way around. I actually am not entirely sure anymore, but just to give you guys an idea, obviously. So after that, I had like a white rhino and springbok habitat planned. Well, that was first right over here. Then I changed it to pygmy hippo. zoos. I think in the end, I actually saw some like a really cool habitat of a cheetah with like that big cage thing that we built. And then I was like, oh man, I really want to add a cheetah now. So yeah, I skipped this whole idea and added the cheetah in a later stage on this particular spot right over here. So then this was pretty much the order that we had at this point. We had the meerkat, African penguin, lemur house with staff management. We had the West African lion, the African savanna with the giraffe, zebra and ostrich. We had the fennec fox, warthogs, bongos and nyalas. 2 episodes of the reptile house with the Azerbaijan tortoise and the Now monitor and a restaurant. The aviary with flamingos, the okapi, the cheetah, and then the Twilight Pack came out, and then I was like, yes, I am going to add the one and only African animal in here, which would be the Egyptian fruit bat. But then also later on I realized that the red fox also lives in a little tiny edge of Africa, so that was definitely my replacement for the 13th episode. So we did have like a staff area right over here and a staff area right over here, if I'm correct. But since the flamingo habitat actually moved towards this area, I had some space right over here now to create like this bat's cave in the end, a little bit more sunken into the ground. So that was pretty much a perfect spot to fill up this empty area that I had right over here. And after that, I had like the red fox, which was pretty much replacing the hyenas at this point. So then we had like this red fox habitat here with like this really cool round cage habitat. So if you have not seen that one yet, highly recommend you to check them on out. Now at this point, I am ready to pretty much finish the last episode, and I am not entirely sure until now what kind of animal I am going to add right over here. I am going to add like another staff building right over here probably, and we also do have one somewhere here in the backside as well. Not entirely here, but yeah. Man, this looks so terrible. Like all these drawings looked really bad, but just to give you guys an idea of where we came from and how I did plan it with the first ideas to where we ended up to be, like, it's been a really fun process, and I definitely did not stick to my plans, but it did really help me to get an idea of how I definitely wanted to start. Like the start was definitely really helpful to have like this map of drawing of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to add this. But clearly you can also like try and already add like rivers or like a pond or mountains and stuff already when you are drawing in advance. Like I am not someone that enjoys really to make rivers and those kind of things. I know some people ask me to like, can you do like a lot of terraforming and stuff, but I'm just not really a fan of it. I think maybe in the future we can do like a mini mountain series or mini river series or something like that. But yeah, I just didn't really feel anything for like planning a river or anything like that in this series in advance. But obviously feel free to do so if you are going to plan out anything for your own zoos. But yeah, as you can tell, like from the top of our mini zoo, a lot has changed and I didn't really stick to my plan. But I do really hope that sharing my process of how I planned out the zoo with you guys, if only it can help like 1 or 2 of you, I am already very happy and satisfied. But obviously do feel free to share with me in the comments down below if you have any better tips of how you can plan out your zoo, or maybe there is like a very, like I just drew it out with a pencil and some paper, but maybe there is like a really cool online software program for free that people can use as well to plan out their zoos. Do let me know in the comments down below so everyone can read this and get some ideas and tips of how to plan out their zoos. And yeah, of course, do let me know if this was a little bit helpful. I can only hope it was a really fun experience for me as well. If you do like to see more of these type of videos as soon as we are about to finish like a new mini series, for example, like this was the first one that I did a sketch for. The newest series will have a same type of sketch, so if you are interested in seeing that one as well after that series, it's not even started yet, but after that series has ended, like do let me know in the comments down below if you find that interesting or not. So yeah, leave a like at the video if you guys enjoyed, and subscribe of course if you haven't already. And yeah, I just really do hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye guys!